a knock on the door and the night begins. Pour yourself something cold, baby, cheers to this. Welcome to my house, baby, take control now. We can't even slow down, we don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house, play that music too loud. Show me what you do now, we don't have to go a while. Welcome to my house, come on, bring a friend. Welcome to my house.
All right, everybody, welcome to the 9 Years podcast. Nick Draper, joined by the face of the BBC Sport website, Mr. Stuart Deacons, episode 258, Friday the 13th of August. And hopefully that's not a sign of anything that happened on Saturday the 14th. But what a weekend it is looking ahead of us, Stu. Well, what a start to the season. 2 wins, all looking good on the pitch, off the pitch, ahead of tomorrow. We'll see. We'll see. But this week on the podcast, we are going to be looking back over our wins at Doncaster and Charlton. We're going to be looking ahead to the game with Bolton. And, of course, the return of our feature looking back 20 years ago to see what happened this week in 2001, the final season of Wimbledon FC. But, Stu, let's get straight into it. 2-1 win at Doncaster on the opening day. Come from behind. Fully deserved victory. And I wanted to, or it was in my head after the game, thinking about the podcast, I wanted to talk about team selection, and this became even more sort of prescient after the Charlton game. I looked at our lineup at Doncaster, just the one debutant. We made half a dozen signings, but only one of them actually started. The other 10 players had all been with us last season. Doncaster had 10 players that were making their debuts, and that obviously played into the respective performances and the respective results. And I was going to talk about the importance of having familiar teams and not chopping and changing and continuity and all those things. And then Tuesday night, we go to Charlton, we make 8 changes and we still win again, albeit Charlton themselves made 7 changes. Am I reading too much into this? Does it actually make a difference? Or is it a fact that Charlton and us on the Tuesday, lots of changes for both teams, both in the same boat, whereas Doncaster, the differences were much more important?
Yeah, well, I think historically we always know that teams in the cup tend to play not a reserve team, but they tend to make changes, even though they should be at the fittest because it's the start of the season. I never understand why people can't play Tuesday, Saturday, and that side of it. I think when you look here now, and look, we've only had 2 games. Let's not get too excited and carried away. But it actually, Robbo was like, I don't want to lose too many players. If you think about it, we let 3 players go: McLaughlin, O'Neill, Riley, and we lost Joe Pigott and Terrell Thomas because of their out of contract. So actual changes, not many. So when you think our lineup, I wasn't surprised that he didn't put new players in. So he didn't put in Henry Lawrence and Aaron Presley and stuff like that. The only one he did put in there was Luke McCormick, and I think that's pure because, well, you saw what he can do to the team. But I think it's the strength of the team know what they want. And, look, we all moan about pre-season. Hindsight's a great thing now. Pre-season was great, wasn't it? Because, of course, we've gone in and the business end of the season. But, yeah, it probably does make a difference. 10 changes, that takes a lot of time. And Doncaster, it was interesting when I looked at the game because Doncaster played us off the park. They were a very good footballing team. But we dominated them. And I don't know whether that was us or whether it's a change of focus from Doncaster. But, I expected them to pass through us, and in the end, we did that to them. So I think you're right in what you're saying. And Charlton made changes, and again, they've got a new team as well, haven't they? But we've got a strong. Let's be fair. We brought Bude in, Lawrence in, Paul Ossu. Paul Ossu's a discussion, isn't he? Do you know what I mean? Daniel Shoker. Paul Cannon-Baye. And I know Robbo's really impressed with Shoka and took him out of the firing line as such, because it's not Shoka, that's the name in it. But I know he did take him out of the firing line. If you look at it, he played 30 games last season under Glyn and then disappeared, didn't he? Come back in. So I think, he's a year older. But I think it's a good second string. But obviously our depth isn't as great as some of the bigger teams.
Interesting you mentioned Shocker there, because I was looking through the highlights of the Doncaster game, and I want to come on to what you mentioned about Doncaster and the way they play football. It's just quickly, those you've mentioned centre-halves. Centre-half pairing was really strong on Saturday. And you've mentioned there then that we changed the formation slightly for Charlton and went 3 at the back, and Cannon-Baye comes in as well. But Will Nightingale and Ben Hennigan on Saturday, really, really solid. And Nick Zanev, nothing to do. So very encouraging start from that pairing.
Yeah, and do you know what? I think the reason for it was because we pressed high. If you look at the way we pressed, Jack Rodoni, Ayabasal, Luke McCormack, Woodyard, even our fullbacks, all pressed high. The amount of times we won the ball in their half was mad, and so, we were on them. And I think what we done, we made Doncaster play long. And if you play long to Hennigan and Will Nightingale, well, they're going to... I think I was looking at injury time, actually, or additional time. And I think Hennigan and Will Nightingale were trying to compete for the furthest header because the headers they cleared, literally out into the other half. And, you could argue that Hennigan maybe made a bit of an error for the goal. It come into him. If you look at it back, Vassal is a little bit asleep and loses man who runs in, and then it's a decent finish. But apart from the goal, defensively we look strong. Will hasn't played much for pre-season, has he? He had the injury, so I thought it was a very strong pairing. And then of course on Tuesday night we changed it around.
You're right when you talk about the Doncaster game, the pressing and the high press and forcing them into mistakes and forcing them long. I think Doncaster worked out how to beat the press. They just couldn't execute it. So they figured out if they stretched, because I think we're going to see this, a lot of teams are going to do this, I think. The way we press and harry is that they stretch the pitch really hard, really wide, and then they try to switch the play as quickly as they could into the space. They just, so many times they got that pass wrong, they overhit it, or if they did get it into the wide areas, then the final pass was lacking. I think we'll see that. I think we will see teams doing that. I think that's how they'll come against us. But I also wonder, 2 away games, will we set up slightly differently when the onus is on us to attack? Because we pressed Doncaster really, really high, and that's how we get the chance in the first half, the only chance of the first half when a Sal goes through, because we forced them into errors. And in fact, all the goals you could argue are based in errors. At home, is it going to be slightly different? Are we going to have to start looking at create a bit more ourselves as opposed to relying on counter-attacks?
Yeah, because ultimately, the home team is normally a team that will attack, and you might find we go 2 up. We might go 2 up with Presley and Palmer potentially. It'd be interesting because and I think Robbo isn't fixed on one formation, as I think we've seen already. One we played a 4 and then we played a 3 at the back. So I don't think he's set on that. Do you know what? I agree with you in terms of if you're going to play against us, you've got to switch the ball. But I don't think there's many teams that are good enough to do that consistently. Because you're right, the spaces switch it, but they're then like 30, 40-yard passes. So, I don't know whether the teams are good enough. If you look at the goal against Charlton, 44 passes. Like, we stretched it and in the end worked it where literally Lawrence was up 1-on-1 and then crosses it in to the opposing wing-back. So, I think, interestingly, we can play... Like I don't know about you, but I still sometimes watch and think, crikey, we pass the ball really well. Like the years that like the teams like Wigan have come down to Kingsmeadow and Oxford, really good passing teams. Charlton themselves. Luton. How many times have we seen? How many times have we? Luton. I always thought Luton played a very robust game. I always thought they were really physical but could pass it. But Luton could always mix it. That was always a difference to Luton. But, how many times did we see Oxford, Charlton come down, pick up the ball in that quarterback position where Hartigan now wants to get the ball and passes off the pitch? We're doing that now. We actually look really good at it, which is a little bit like we're not used to it as Wimbledon fans. because you want to knock it long. But then equally, I think we can knock it long if we need to. You could argue that the goal we scored, the winner was, the equaliser from Ayab was a long ball.
Well, it was,
long ball.
It was a long ball.
And you've literally got him in the land of the giants, and he is competing and making. Like if you looked at the press, there was 4 people around that ball.
Yeah.
All pressing, all trying to get the ball, and then the 2 switched on players. You could argue McCormick and Asal created a goal. The ball, a little straight ball, and it's past the keeper before he can even set.
Yeah.
And them 2 really excited me. Like, them 2 look like they've already got a partnership. That could be we don't want to get too carried away, but let's be honest, them 2 look really exciting.
Offside, equaliser.
Do you know what? Yeah, I think everyone would have looked. I was waiting for a flag.
Yeah.
From the angle we had. I think it probably couldn't. The thing is, you guys, you have to argue the lines would have been in line because it wasn't a counter move. That ball was in that area of the pitch for ages, wasn't it?
Yeah.
So, and you didn't see any Doncaster players really appeal for it. So that's sometimes how you react, isn't it? Yeah, I don't know. You're right. I don't know. I don't really care. To be honest with you.
Yeah, I don't care either. I also don't think. I also wonder if Asal doesn't miss the chance in the first half, if he scores that one. Do you know what I mean? Having the experience of being 1-on-1 in the first half, he probably knew the next time it came along that just take it early, before the keeper has a chance.
It's a good finish.
It's a great finish. It's a great finish.
Like, let's be honest with you. That is a kid. That's a great finish. And if the ball that Luke passed through for Asal when he was 1-on-1.
First half, yeah.
If you look at Asal's body shape, he literally is running on a diag.
Yeah.
So he's literally showing Luke where to put the ball, and he stays on side. Do you know what's really worrying about Ayub is he's showing qualities that are way above our level.
I mean, we're talking currently a League One Michael Hughes.
Yeah, you're right. You know what? The kid's got, and I don't mean that derogatory by saying a kid because he is a kid, but the kid's got everything: pace, tactical awareness. Some of the stuff he's doing now, playing, and Robbo wants to play him as a 10 up front. And you saw that, and he played that quite comfortably. He's showing intelligence way beyond the experience because he's not even played 20 games yet.
No. It's ridiculous. I mean, we're talking about a player that came in, scored an equaliser at Shrewsbury earlier this year, calendar year, and now look, it's just. Let's not speak him up too much because we already know the scouts are going to be looking, and bigger clubs are going to be.
Well, they are, but the best business we've done, as I said to you before, was put him on a 3-year contract in the summer. That was our best signing by absolute miles. Because it protects us. And, we all moaned about losing Lyle Taylor for 3 and Tom Elliott. We can go through,
Joe Pickett,
list.
yeah.
We can go through a list, can't we? And Terrell Thomas, who still hasn't got a club yet, which is really, really surprising. Yeah. But we've moaned, haven't we, that we've lost our start. And I would argue with anybody, we have got probably our most promising player that we've had on a 3-year contract at the right age. To make a real, let's be fair, academy players, if we go back, we're going to do our review later of 2001. You and I grew up on the fact of really, having our best players, getting a couple of years out of them if we can, and then selling them for profit.
Yeah.
Did it all the time. He's the best one we produced by miles.
Yeah. I'm not going to disagree. We do have lots to talk about, so we best move on. Very quick answer to this one. Pick a name, right back. Alexander or Lawrence?
Lawrence all day long.
Okay. Alexander did have a good game though on Saturday, it must be said.
Nothing against Alexander.
But
you don't literally scout a player or get literally try and get this player all summer if you're not gonna play him.
I do have issues. We have a Chelsea loanee, we have a Watford loanee. I hate Chelsea, I hate Watford. If you think I hate Watford, if you think I hate Milton Keynes, that's nothing compared to my hatred, my absolute hatred for Chelsea. Deep-rooted, absolutely hate them.
And the coach as well, by the way.
And the coach.
You got a coach from Chelsea.
Oh, no, I'm not.
Nice guy, by the way, as well.
I'll take your word for it. Charlton game, obviously Lawrence. I've used the obviously cliche. Lawrence with the assist. But I want to talk about for Paul Osu's goal. Paul Osu later came off. There's a little bit of conversation about substitutions because we used 4, which are, that's not a continuation from COVID rules. This is the new concussion sub protocol. So we just wanted to highlight this one. Paul Osu, head injury, independent medic, reviewed him, looked at him, said he had to come off concussion, and therefore that's why we got the extra 4th sub. So we just wanted to clear that one up, and that's one to look out for throughout the season. And we await the first scandal involving a club somehow abusing that or somehow playing the rules on that one. It's bound to happen, unfortunately. And do you know who's going to do it? It's going to be someone like Neil Warnock or Steve Evans or Watford.
I don't know if you've read up. I haven't. I'll be honest with you. I haven't read up about it because I've not had a chance to. But the independent one does. That's interesting because that's it. And do you know what? Before we go anywhere else, the concussion is spot on. Do you know what I mean? You know, the stuff that's coming out of the reports and people that have suffered from stuff. Although I don't want us to have a non-contact and non-heading sport. But
yeah,
yeah. You know where I'm going with that, don't you? Do you know what I mean? Like,
well, yeah, I mean, I appreciate it or not. I'm totally on board with it, but I also think heading has been part of football since forever. And what are the numbers? Because there are genuine conversations about people saying you shouldn't head the ball, and there are limits on training with how many times you can head it in training, stuff like that. The numbers do not justify a blanket approach to this. It's fine.
Yeah, and do you know what? If you go to training grounds at the moment, they don't do a lot of 11-a-side games.
Anyway, no.
You know, a lot of it is on. You know, look at how we're playing now. You know, we wouldn't have done that under Fashion and stuff like that. You know, they'd be running around the Richard St Evans ground, wouldn't they, and stuff like that. Yeah, I'm worried about the heading side of it, and I think it's a bigger subject, but the balls were a lot heavier. Let's be honest with you. Anyone who's in my age played football at school, and the ball got wet. Mate, you didn't want to head that. You didn't want to be near it. Do you know what I mean? Like, the balls are a lot different now on that side of it. But you're right. Yeah, I suppose my thinking is, who's the independent? If this is going through the whole football league, at League Two, how can we have who's the independent person? You know, are they? So what I mean by that, are they as independent as we think? And can it be abused? Because look at Graham Wesley at Stevenage would have had fun with this one, wouldn't he?
First time we've won our opening 2 games as a Football League club since our return to the Football League. It's actually the first time since 1995 when we were in the Premier League. We beat Bolton at Selhurst Park on the opening day. Then we went to QPR and won 3-0. If you're looking for omens, that season we went very shortly afterwards between September and Christmas time, 14 league games without a win. So let's hope that's not what happens on this occasion. Of course, past performance does not always indicate future results. Shout out to Jim Potter on that one. League Cup second round, second time we've made it as AFC Wimbledon, and only the third time since 2001. Week commencing 23rd of August. We're recording this before the draw has been made. So Stu, what we'll do is we'll just do a general reaction, either saying a rubbish draw or a great draw, and we'll just edit it. So it's just fine. We won't make the mistake of I'll remember to edit it because, last time when we nearly aired that thing about what's his name and his wife really wouldn't have been happy about that. What a great draw in the second round of the League Cup we got. Absolutely amazing.
Amazing. Absolutely amazing. It makes you want to enter the League Cup more often.
What a terrible draw. It's just sod's law, isn't it? You get to the second round for only like the second time in 20 years and you get lumbered with that.
Yeah, we all saw it coming, didn't we? Do you know what I mean? Like, we know the balls are not going to help us at all. And that's it for another season.
Oh, well. Remind me to edit that.
Charlton, we're getting an indifferent draw now. We were like, fuck.
We'll get something that's in between and be like, neither here nor there. Right, Charlton, the last thing I want to touch on, because you wanted to talk about some of the players that remain out of contract currently, but you said there was a link to the Charlton game in midweek, and I don't know what that link is. So what's your thinking?
Yeah, so what we're looking at is the amount of, so I don't know, I've said this before, but Dan McAnsey on his Hard Truth, his podcast has started again. If you want to listen to the second best podcast in the business, then obviously listen to that. But he was talking about, in terms of players now starting to get desperate, lots of players still out of business, still out of contract. And I was just noticing, in terms of a player that was at Charlton, John Williams, who you remember was at Palace and stuff like that.
Johnny Williams.
Johnny
the one
Williams.
That was on the documentary with Sunderland?
Possibly.
Little
Boxer
guy,
trick.
blonde hair.
Yeah, boxer tricks,
Ipswich.
Welsh. Yeah, 27 years old, went from Charlton, went to Cardiff.
How's he not got a club?
He's out of contract. I know,
What?
and I double treble checked it. It's really mad when you look at, if you look at the players that are out of contract who played League One football last year, even to the extent, Scott Wagstaff still hasn't got a club, either released from Forest Green. Riley O'Neill, Terrell Thomas not got a club yet. There's a lot of deals still to be done out there. So yeah, and I know Nick's checking now because I've double and treble checked without a club.
Yeah, no, I'm just looking. I'm just thinking that's I'm just making sure it was the player I was thinking it was.
Yeah, but boxer tricks and stuff like that. And it's just, I think what clubs are going very leaner with squad sizes, and there's players probably that were hoping for a better deal that are still out there. I think the window's shut until the end of this month.
Yeah.
So I think you could see. I'm not saying that we will get any. I think our business is done, but since we got the Watford kid, didn't we, which was great. So I think there's a lot of players that probably won't have a club. It's a thing that COVID affected that I don't think fans have noticed, and I think you'll see a lot of interesting surprise because don't forget the National League starts a bit later because they finish later. So you could even find some players dropping down into the National League that you wouldn't suspect. But there's a lot of players out. And I was just amazed when I looked at the connection with Johnny Williams. I was like, crikey, why, how has he still not got a club? Of course, you've got players like Jack Wiltshire and players and George Libby who still haven't got clubs. But they're going to be obviously in demand. I don't know what they're doing. But yeah, the transfer market out there is crazy. What I just wanted to say very quickly, Darren McAntony made me crack up. So he was talking about in League One, if Peterborough coming for a player, they were top of the list. He's got promoted, and now people are like, why would I join Peterborough in the Championship? And he just said it's amazing how one division has changed how people are viewed within there. It just made me crack up, but probably rightly so. And of course, Luton demolished them on the opening day of the season. Who also picked up Mendes from Morecambe. Who
you mentioned it,
yeah.
Sweet, yeah.
Morecambe, the amount of players they've got, everyone's joined Morecambe.
Morecambe are doing well. They got good fish and chips up there. That's why. Post-match meals, they're all loving it. Darren McAntony was on Radio 5 on Friday evening with our mate Aaron Paul and Lyle Taylor. That was a really good listen. It's still on BBC Sounds website. If you wanted to back to that, the Football League preview show, it was on Radio 5 on Friday, the 6th of August. So have a scan for that if you've not listened to it. Really, really good. Lyle was great value. He picked us as a dark horse for League One this season. And he also said a great line about players who, it's not always about money. He said it's also the stars and the history of a club that attracts players to go and play for certain teams. And he said there are some great teams, and then there are other ones that don't really have much history. He wouldn't divulge who he was thinking of, but you imagine who he meant. You
can imagine Aaron was just like, yeah, but Aaron probably would like, I come on the BBC. Saying that request though, Joby McAnuff said some really nice.
Yeah.
I'm not saying he's never done that. But it did make me laugh when they talked about Robbo and his sort of like his forward thinking. I'm thinking Aaron, because obviously Aaron does the news at BBC Radio 5 with, I've forgotten his name again. I always forget his name. He's the presenter of Quest, the Irish guy.
Colin Murray.
That's him, yeah. I can imagine Aaron has been chewing off Colin Murray's ear about Robbo and that, because of some of the stuff he was saying. I know Rob, so hey, that's good. Do you know what I mean? It's good for word of mouth and stuff like that. And he's getting Robbo's getting noticed a hell of a lot, isn't he?
I want to pick Robbo's brains about Colin Murray, because Colin Murray for a little spell was presenting Countdown. Mark is a fan of Countdown.
He loves that, doesn't he?
I want to know what his thoughts on Anne Robinson is. She's taken over the hot seat there, but that's another conversation for another day. We've got a lot to talk about. Going back to the weekend and very quickly, Stu, elsewhere in League One, pick of the results I picked up, we just mentioned there, Morecambe got a point at Ipswich, denied very, very late on. We're winning up until injury time, but a good start to their life in League One. I think they got a good result in the Cup in the week as well. So well done, Morecambe, good start. And Gillingham Lincoln, what the hell's going on there? So Lincoln score, the players run into not into the crowd, but the other side of the advertising hoardings. So in reverse, mentioning no names of any of our fans that might have done something like that on the weekend, in reverse, that would never be allowed. It'd be a huge scandal. But the players just casually step into the stand, and then some Gillingham fans take offence, and there's a bit of pushing and shoving and allegations of racism and stuff. I don't know where that is got to at this moment in time, but 5 minutes into your season and you're already in a scandal. Who manages Gillingham?
Well, the Chuckle Brothers, well, not even the Chuckle Brothers, is it? Do you know what I mean? Like the twosome up, nightmare, aren't they? And Robbo was talking very fondly about him on the Meet the Manager as well. Mr. Evans, who then got sent off at Crawley.
Of all teams.
Hilarious.
I did laugh because Crawley tweeted in the Cup, Crawley played Gillingham, Steve Evans got sent off, and Crawley tweeted saying the ground has erupted. I'm thinking, that implies you've got people to watch you.
You know what, right? Very quickly, because I know we've got a lot on. I forgot we moved, right? So I've moved from Crawley, where I was near the ground.
You forgot that you'd moved?
No, and what I mean by that is I was thinking, I actually was going, that's decent now. I can go down, so I'm only around the corner. Oh, no, I'm not. I've moved. Nope. I keep forgetting. That'd been a great game to watch. But yeah, Steve Evans getting sent off. Wonder what that's for.
Who knows? League One this weekend, before we look at the Bolton game, Stu, pick of the fixtures. I picked out a couple. Did you pick out any?
Yeah, Lincoln Fleetwood, simply because I'd just be interesting. I think Fleetwood obviously lost at home to Pompey, and their team looks a very average team compared to what Fleetwood normally have out.
Yeah.
So that's quite interesting to see how they get on. And also Sheffield Wednesday Doncaster.
Yeah.
Derby up that end.
Yeah.
Just be interesting to see what influence the Hillsborough crowd does have and whether it's a hindrance, because we know Sunderland have found it a hindrance with their crowd.
Yes, good shout. I just saw Wigan Rotherham piqued my interest, and Oxford Charlton just because, Charlton have yet to score a goal in their 2 league games so far, and Oxford we're looking to see where they'll be. So it's going to be a winner in that game. The loser will be very disappointed. We shall see. We have Bolton, momentous occasion. First time we're going to have a full house at Plough Lane. We're all very excited about it. Let's talk about the game very quickly first before we get on to other things and the occasion. So Bolton, as we know, our last game at Kings Meadow was against Bolton. They were on their way to getting relegated. We drew 0-0. They've since come back. The COVID lockdown season, they finished third in League Two, so they're straight back up. Last week, injury time equaliser against that team from Buckinghamshire, 3-3 draw, and then they beat Barnsley in the League Cup in the week after a 0-0 draw. They won on penalties. So Ian Evatt is the man in charge at the moment who got them promoted. And I was looking through their team. Owen Doyle up front scored goals in his career, seems to be the one he started both their games so far, seems to be the one we need to keep an eye on. But they've signed well. So I picked out 3 of their signings. Will Amerson, who was centre back at Plymouth, not been involved as yet though, so it might be injured there. But Amadou Bakayoko, who was at Coventry, striker, scored on the weekend. Often pops up with goals, good player at this level. Josh Sheehan, we all know from Newport, and his set pieces, and he scored a set piece on the weekend as well.
Isn't he ex-Luton?
Josh Sheehan? I couldn't possibly comment.
Because I did laugh when I saw that name. I was like, I wonder where that come from.
I'm not saying anything, but he is a good player and he scored a great goal on the weekend.
Yeah, you're right. Do you know what? Doyle is an interesting player. He scored top goal scorer for Chesterfield, Bradford. Oldham scores goals this level, so he's a handful. Preston before that, wasn't he? He's a handful. He must be. How old is he though?
He's 33, I think.
I was going to say he's been around for ages, hasn't he? So, and Sarcevic, that's it.
Yeah,
Sarcevic. I'll get it right. Full-time lucky. Obviously at Plymouth, captain now. So, hey, do you know what? I think it's a good game for us. Because I know from last season he never does like to play an expansive game. He's got very much his idea of how he wants to play. If you remember going back last season, he totally abused it. He totally slaughtered his goalkeeper, didn't he? Like a young goalkeeper.
Oh, yes, of course, yeah.
But he has got, I remember listening to it, and he has got his principles, how he wants to play and his team to play. So, it might be early days. To play them. But, I think it's a tough game. Any game in League One's going to be a tough one. But, hey, look, do you know what? It's all about us. Full house. I can't wait. When we talk about it like that.
Yeah, I mean, I am interested to see. I think it will be an open game. I think they'll match up formation-wise. But it's our day. It is our day. So, I mean, that brings pressure as much as it also brings excitement. But Robbo's very good at dealing with pressure. And there's something else I wanted to mention about Mark Robinson, actually, but I'll come to that at the end. A quick scoreline prediction, though, Stu, before we get on to the other whys and wherefores.
I would say, do you know what? I will let my heart rule my head, and I'm going to go for a 3-0 win.
Okay, I will go for a win. I will say, but I think we'll concede some goals. I think it'll be really, really open. And Josh Sheehan is a wand So we'll go for a 3-2. We'll do that 3-2 win for us. I noticed you put in a win for us on the Ask a Prediction League this week. I'm assuming you predicted 1-0 because you got 2 points.
Yeah,
I've correctly guessing that we'd win, and then the margin of the victory.
Yeah, so I did a Charlton win as well. Sorry, a Charlton win. I did a Wimbledon win against Charlton 1-0.
So you got 4 points. So you're on 6 points. So I'm on 0. I'm on 1 point. 1 point.
Do you know what? I just thought to myself, I thought I could see it being tight, and I felt we were going to win. I didn't say too much beforehand. I just had a strong feeling we would. I got it right. But you know what? It's good. I just want to win that. I'm doing right at the moment.
Only 47 minimum games to go. And that doesn't include the B Team trophy, which I won't be predicting if there's an opportunity to do that because that doesn't count. Anyway, right. So the occasion, Plough Lane, finally, full house, Football League fixture, competitive fixture at Plough Lane for the first time since 1991.
Yeah, Palace at home.
Palace at home, lost 3-0. I'm super looking forward to it. Put a video together this week, sort of trying to hype it up a little bit as well. I mean, there's nothing we really say, Stu, to be honest with you. We all know what a great occasion it's going to be to see us playing in Plough Lane in front of a full house. We all know what massive achievement it's been to do it and to get there and get it over the line. So we can't really, you've heard it all before. I don't think we can add anything new to that conversation. It's not been without its problems. The Don's Trust board released a statement last week and this week about ticketing problems with the ticket online system. First thing they needed to sort was debentures and season tickets not being available for sale at the same time as match tickets, which has been sorted. A lot of hard work's gone in there to sort that. So that's one problem averted. But then we've got the issue this week now, season tickets not having been sent out, won't be sent out. Got to download your tickets, either print them or download them to your phone to scan them with a QR code on Saturday, which isn't ideal. We're having a talk before we started recording, and I will be talking about having sort of a memento and a physical ticket being a sort of a memento of the first game at Plough Lane. And it's a shame we can't do that, or something a little bit else on top of that, perhaps. But again, as you rightly mentioned, some people might think that was not the best way to allocate finances. Like Fulham have done this huge, great brochure. Like you get a box with all these different brochures and little mementos and things. You could argue we don't have the finances for that, which is fair enough. But it's a shame we won't have that physical memento to have of the first game, because this is the proper first game, as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, I agree.
The ticketing system has been a source of much frustration for many people, struggling to work their way around it, things going missing, tickets they think they've purchased, which they haven't ended up purchasing, which is causing people a bit of angst, people that have held off booking travel or overnight stays because they didn't want to leave home without having the tickets first, and all these sorts of things. So it's a difficult situation. And is it evidence of under-resourcing off the pitch?
Yeah. Has to be, doesn't it? The idea of the ticketing system was to make it more, streamline it, in terms of make it an experience. But hey, look, it's just everything on top of it. We've not been at no games at Plough Lane. The first game at Plough Lane, it's been there for a year, behind closed doors, a test event. So we've actually never had 9,000. Every possible challenge that the club could have, they've got. And now you've got fans that are anxious because, of course, they are. If you think about, and it's not new that we've had season ticket issues. Let's be honest with you. The amount of times we've gone to Plough Lane and I've picked up my season ticket from the back bar.
No, so you've never done that. Kings Meadow, you might have done.
Oh yeah, sorry, Kings Meadow. Sorry, nothing new in that. Do you know what I mean? Of course, we don't want. I don't know how many season tickets we've got, but let's just say, for argument's sake, we've got 5,000.
Yeah, let's go for 4. Yeah.
You don't want that because there's just no room to do that. So I think it just. Me personally, and it's interesting because I'm old, definitely older than yourself, and you obviously wanted you would prefer a physical memento, and I understood that. Me, I quite enjoyed the QR code. So, in terms of them saying that the season ticket hasn't been sent out, it doesn't bother me. I would rather have a QR code for every game and do that because it's been easy for me, in terms of just show my phone and then go in. So, I'm more of a digital person in terms of I have books on my iPad, I don't see the point of having a book. Do you know what I mean? I know you're going to shake your head on that.
If you have books on your iPad, Stu, you don't have books. That's my argument.
I know. And that's the thing. And don't get me wrong, my wife's like that. She always says you can smell the book and stuff. I'm like, well,
oh, yes.
You can smell my iPad if you want. Do you know what I mean? But maybe not.
I'll tell you what, go into Waterstones and then go into the Apple store and tell me which one smells better.
Yeah, and I get that. Because I've been in Waterstones recently. And I get that, the experience and stuff like that, but it's also the digital experience. And there's, so for me personally, a QR code, I haven't got a problem with. But of course, the fact that they've announced this in the week so they've announced it after the weekend.
Yeah.
That's the problem, because of course we've got a lot of older fans who maybe don't have access to the online system. We've got a few friends who have had to try and sort out tickets for their mum and dad, and they don't need that because people are looking forward to this game so much. But I do feel for the club, because this is a test event, and the last thing you need is anxious fans at an event like this. So I do feel for the club. But you're right, it is. We haven't got enough. We haven't got enough staff. Let's be blunt. We are running a League One club on a budget that isn't a League One club, and we've got a massive ground that we're trying to get to grips with, and we just don't have the resources. That's the bottom line of it.
Yeah, I mean, the club haven't said this, and I know it's a pain for a lot of people, but I think for one game, it might be worth sucking it up, and it's perhaps advisable to get there a little bit earlier than you would perhaps normally, just in case you encounter any problems. And it would probably help the club out a little bit as well, actually, if we can get people in as quickly as possible, I assume. Yeah,
what is it, half one
is the gates
of the ground?
Yeah.
Yes, I'll be honest with you, I'm going to be there at 1:30, because I just want to soak up. Like, this is going to be amazing, isn't it?
Yeah.
And also, I want to make sure I get a chicken balti pie.
Dear.
They are amazing pies. Like, if you've not had a chicken balti pie, go and get it. £4.50. Trust me. Like, if you've got £4.50 and you can afford £4.50, go and get a pie. It's amazing.
I'll take your word for it, Stu. But that isn't to, like I say, it's not to try and, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but there are problems. They do the Doncaster are very much invested in sorting these things out and trying to get to the bottom of it. But I mean, the reality is we are, like I said, Stu, we're under resourced on the pitch. We've been going on about this for years and years, about how things have progressed on the pitch, but off the pitch, we never kept up pace with our operations at the same rate we did with our rise through the game. And it was always going to come to a head at some point, and I can only hope this is the worst it gets.
Yeah, and you know what? There's no guarantee that we're going to pass this test event on Saturday. There's no guarantee. There's no guarantee of it, because you think about the actual if you think about the challenges, we before we recorded, we've never had away fans at our ground.
That's the worry.
Never had.
It is a worry. Can I just say on that one? Bolton is a good one to have, because their
fans... There's worse,
it could be a lot worse. Yeah, but sorry, go on.
It's a new ground. We know that look, we've all seen 2,000 and 4,000 people who's like around Plough Lane with also the Saturday traffic. So there's a lot of challenges already for the club. And I think it's going to be, look, I want us to pass with flying colours, but let's not kid ourselves. This hasn't helped. This ticket situation for a test event hasn't helped at all for the club that is struggling. I thought they were great for the last test event. There was things that could have gone wrong there, and I think yes, there was still some teething problems, but that's what the test event is for. But this is a totally different thing. It's a proper game. It's the first game back at Plough Lane after 30 years. Got away fans. I think what we giving them, 800 or something, or 900?
1,400.
1,400. Okay, it's more than what I thought. You got the whole ground full. Look, it's going to be, I can imagine there's a lot of sleepless nights for a lot of people working at the club. And all I was saying, this isn't us trying to, support, we're supporters, but, I think where possible, we just have to realise these challenges for Saturday. We want to go there and enjoy ourselves, but we've got a very tight resourced backroom staff, if you want to call it, who want to enjoy the game. But I don't think in anyone's worst dream would we have thought we have a test event on the first game of the season. I don't think anyone would have wanted that, because it's just, it's not ideal.
Yeah. So basically, everyone just be sensible and be patient where you need to be patient, and we'll get through it. And then we can just enjoy the football, and we'll come out of it the other side. And Worry about recriminations on anything.
Yeah,
day,
go and get a pie, a sausage roll. Go and get a pie. Lovely pies.
I'm not going to add anything to that. Where else are we in League One? We've already done that one. So this is, well, that's it. That's it, really, to talk about the weekend. That is it. I've just realised, yeah. And then we've got Gillingham a few days later, but we'll come on to that another time. Updates from Bolton game will be on Twitter at 9YRS podcast. Is there anything else we want to add, Stu, before we get to the final part of the show?
No. All I want to say, right, is, we talk about a ticketing system. I'm not going to say who it is, but there is a person that we know who basically counts empty dots on the ticketing system to see how many tickets are not sold for. Yeah. I think for the Gillingham game, we're like under 1,000 that haven't been sold.
Yeah.
So, that game I'm looking forward to. I don't want to say more. Yeah, sure. I am looking forward more to Bolton because I'd love to, Steve Evans might now have got away with being on a touchline because of his sending off. But midweek, under the lights at Plough Lane, I've been thinking about that for a long time. I think it'll be amazing against Gillingham. So I could argue that game is I'm looking forward to more. And I want a home tie in a League Cup because I just want midweek ties.
Fulham, Palace, Brighton, Arsenal away, please.
Arsenal away is a money spinner, of course it is.
Brighton
but if we're not
get to tick off the Amex Stadium, so that'd be
good. Yeah. I've just realised I've mucked up how surprise.
Well, yeah, because we have no idea. Yeah, imagine people listening to this on Friday are going to go, yeah, well, you called that one horrendously wrong, didn't you? Oh, well, here's what you could have won.
Yeah.
Right, let's look back to 2001 then. So we're looking to the week, August 13th to the 19th in 2001, our final season of WFC. We're going to go over some memories. And Stu, this was a big week in the history of the Milton Keynes move because this was the week on the 16th of August that the Football League Board meeting was held in which they board unanimously 8 votes to 0 rejected the move to Milton Keynes. 16th of August, we knew we knew that was not going to be it. We knew that the move was likely going to be ignored and then legal challenges would be sought, and that's exactly what happened. But at this stage, it was a victory for us. And I think the quote here from the Football League Board following that meeting was, to allow this move, obviously the move to Milton Keynes, to allow this move would have created a precedent at odds with the heritage of football in this country. Our football clubs are at the heart and soul of their local communities, and that is something that cannot be transferred from place to place. Something else that can't be transferred from place to place is Milton Keynes fans to away grounds, as we saw the weekend. But anyway, let's leave that one there. 16th of August was that meeting. I do remember songs in the weeks after that singing 8-0 to the Football League, and we were very pleased with that. And we knew there was going to be a legal challenge that would come into it. But I don't think anyone's still in their right. I still didn't think it would happen. The Football League had said no, they weren't going to be, they were not for turning on the issue. It would have been wrong. But at the time, it was happy days. First thing voted down. We knew there were more battles to come, but it was a good atmosphere, I think, at that point.
Yeah, I think it just showed, it's still got a case now that the Football League don't have as much power as they would want, do you know what I mean? And there's so many different areas they can go. But when you have something rejected so unanimously, you do think that, don't you? And start of a season that was going to get worse.
Yeah, it got worse a couple of days later because we lost at Burnley. So we'd beaten Birmingham City on the opening day 3-1 at Selhurst Park. All looking forward to a good promotion charge. Went to Burnley, got turned over 3-2. I hated Burnley back in those days, Stu. I hated them. They beat us at Turf Moor the season before. They beat us at Selhurst Park the season before. I really wanted to turn them over. We never did. I think we got a 0-0 draw in our final game at Selhurst later this season. But 3-2 defeat. David Nielsen puts 1-0 up after 10 minutes. We were 3-1 down by half-time. Do you know who scored the second goal for Burnley that day from the penalty spot?
I do, because you told me.
There you go. Do you want to enlighten the listeners?
Mr. Cook, Mr. Paul Cook.
Paul Cook, who now manager at Ipswich.
And if anyone's lucky enough to see him play, proper midfielder. Yeah. Really good player, do you know what I mean? And you wouldn't believe now when you look at him and you hear his voice, but really good player.
Neil Shipley scored a goal for us in the second half to make it 3-2, but we ended up losing. Paul Cook was at the centre of a bit of a storm in the news that week because he'd scored a goal up at Sheffield Wednesday the week before. I think it was a 6:15 kickoff that we talked about last week on ITV Digital. And in the news that week, there were talks that the 6:15 Sunday evening games were to be scrapped on police advice because of fan trouble, and there were concerns that it was not a good kickoff time. Lots of fans drinking all day and the build up to it. Problems at Sheffield Wednesday Burnley, as you'd expect. I think they had a big derby game coming up on a Friday night they weren't happy about as well. Sunday night, sorry. So that was what was in the news. They were looking to scrap those ITV 6:15 Sunday kickoffs, which were always horrible, remained horrible for the duration. And I'm glad we've seen the back of those, if not all televised football at really annoying times of the day. Elsewhere that week, number one single that week, Stu, has an AFC Wimbledon link. So who do you think was number one?
Well, it was a So Solid crew, wasn't it?
It was indeed. 21 seconds.
Great tune. Great tune. Still great now.
If only it lasted just 21 seconds instead of whatever it was, like 10 minutes it felt like listening
I think
to
most people know that song, though, don't they?
Everyone knows that song, yeah.
Do you know what I mean? It's a great song, isn't it? So, and timeless.
I see what you did there. Do you know what my favourite thing about So Solid Crew was the girl? The number one film was Cats and Dogs for the second week in a row. Number one film at the box office, in the UK box office, Cats and Dogs for the second week in a row, and no one remembers that film. So, I mean, it obviously wasn't very good, but it was number one at the time. So, there you go. Got nothing to add to that, really. Yeah.
You know what? I'm just looking at the Burnley team, and it wasn't a bad team, to be fair. But do you know what? And this is me being very stupid. Steve Davis played for them, and I always kept thinking, why if it has he does play centre half and snooker at the same time? I always kept thinking that best. But yeah, some really interesting names when you look back. Gareth Taylor, Glenn Little, who I used to go to school with back in the day, stayed there for ages. But yeah, some really Dean West. I think they went to Brighton. Yeah,
they had a good team. They were challenging the playoffs.
Only two subs. Happy days.
That's the way it should be. Nice.
Yeah.
By the end of it, we're going to have rolling subs in 20 years' time if we're still alive.
Who was manager at that time? Because I'm just looking here. The substitution.
Stan Ternant.
Yeah, because the substitutions that were made were on the 86th minute and the 89th minute.
And we know why that was.
Things never change.
Proper old school. Right. But that was the week that was in 2001. And next week, more defeats. We'll talk about more defeats that season. But at the moment, in 2021, we're only talking victories and hopefully another one, momentous day on Saturday. But that is it for this week, Stu. So thank you very much for joining me.
No problem at all. It's like Christmas, isn't it? It's like waiting for Christmas.
Yeah, we are very excited. It's Friday night. It's going to be a bit of a sleepless night, I imagine. But that's it. Thank you very much for listening. Thank you for joining us. Updates, don't forget, from all the games on Twitter at 9Wireless Podcast. Sunday Night Live, as usual, on Sunday on YouTube. And we'll be back next Friday. So all that's left for me to say is Alexa Bliss. Happy birthday this week, Alexa, by the way. Bag first, milk last. 2 + 2 = 4. And we shall speak to you again next Friday.